Hello everyone! I am very excited about our Wind in the Willows nature journaling class this summer, and I thought I would make a little video for those of you inside the Nature Creative right now who want to get ready for this, and also for those of you that are considering joining us this summer. I originally made the Wind in the Willows class in the summer of 2022. So some of you may have already been through this and a number of you have not. So I thought we would just go through the sort of basic schedule, go over our supplies a little bit, let you know about the book list, and give you some ideas that I have for how I want to sort of modify or add to the class as we go through it this second time. If you're in the creative right now, you have the schedule for this summer 2025 and what my plan is for each week. I will be releasing the content from the original class each Friday as we go through June, July, and August. And I'll also be creating a little brand new video each week and probably sprinkle in a nature walk or a tea time or a few new tutorials as we go along. I can't wait to reread The Wind in the Willows with you this summer. The older I get, the more convinced I am of the importance of reading children's books when you're an adult. We often talk about the inner child, and I think reading children's books is sort of a shortcut back to childhood, back to that wonder and awe and imagination. I think that it is also an excellent way to sort of get in touch with our inner child. And if that child needs any sort of extra nurturing or healing or attention, reading children's literature can be just the thing. It was C.S. Lewis who said that a children's story that can only be enjoyed by children is not a good children's story in the slightest. He expected adults as well as children to be reading children's stories. So I'm looking forward to this summer to immersing myself in this children's book, to having it as sort of a magical doorway back into a life of enchantment and awe and wonder and discovery. And also maybe another way to look at this as sort of a gym for our imagination, but much more fun than going to the gym. It's going to be an exciting adventure for our imagination. For the sake of simplicity, I want to focus on 4 of the major habitats that are mentioned in The Wind in the Willows, and that would be the meadow, the riverbank, the wild wood, and then a house or a home. Toad is the character that lives in an old falling down English manor house. But each of the characters do talk about or bring us to their home. So I think this is kind of an important thing to consider as we read this book. And so as we go along, be alert to what habitat you might be reading about as the chapters go on. Look around you as you are noticing things on your walks, as you look out the window, as you drive around. What habitats are you passing? And then you might think, what is the most meadow-like place that you can regularly go this summer? Or how about the riverbank or some form of water that you can regularly visit? I know for me, we have decided to not mow a portion of our yard this summer. We have a very small yard in a typical suburban neighborhood, but we've carved out this kidney bean shape that we are not mowing. And it's going to be my little micro meadow in my backyard. And I guess if I want to go to a bigger meadow, I would need to go somewhere in my local park or one of the parks inside of the city, somewhere where I can get to a large place with tall grass and flowers. I'm really lucky that we have a little creek that winds its way through the back of our neighborhood, and that goes along the path that I typically walk on throughout the week. And then if I want more water, I can go over to the Eagle Creek Reservoir and walk beside that. As far as the woods, I do have some woods along my daily path in the neighborhood. I should think about a place where there's really a deep, dark woods that I might be able to visit a couple of times this summer. And then of course, we all have our own homes where we live. And I also like to think about perhaps a historic home near you. I know when I filmed the class originally, I looked at old fields in the Indianapolis Museum of Art grounds as a historic home, kind of a large historic home. I'm thinking about that, thinking about if there's anything else I want to sort of visit or examine this summer, and also look at my own home, how I might want to make it more of a cozy habitat for myself. I have some new ideas for this class this summer, especially for those of you that have been through it before. The idea of a commonplace book came to my mind, and commonplace books are very popular right now. They have been around since at least the Greek and Roman times, when philosophers collected their ideas and wrote them down in an organized fashion. They became quite popular in early medieval times. In fact, these collections of things people wanted to remember, or important quotes or bits of information, were actually called a florilegium, if I get the term right, which literally means a gathering of flowers. And the idea is a gathering of precious things or important things. And there's many sort of people throughout history that have made this a practice. I think John Locke in the 18th century even wrote a book about how to make a commonplace book. So for me in my life, a commonplace book is kind of a journal that's very casual, where I write down mostly things that I am finding in books that I'm reading, or maybe if I listen to a podcast and happen to take notes. I was thinking, for those of you that have either been through the class before and want something different, or who don't have the time to make a more extensive sketchbook this summer, or who are just drawn to this idea, you might consider making a commonplace book. And this is, in my mind, sort of a book where you write down and record the parts of the Wind in the Willows that really stick out to you. I made this sample from chapter 1, and I cut out some things from magazines. I used the colored pencils that we are using in the main tutorials. I had some markers that I wrote the quotes. I printed out the little characters that come as a handout inside of the class, so you can print your own too. And I just started to kind of illustrate and record the things that meant the most to me in chapter 1. I am really excited about this, and I think I might have to throw in a few little new tutorials, very, very simple, about ways that we can add to this commonplace book and really turn it into a nature journal. Now, I just want to remind you of the supplies that we are going to use, and the original class used a Canson mixed media sketchbook like this, and that's because the majority of the tutorials are watercolor and watercolor pencil, and this is the kind of sketchbook that I chose for that. So if you want to do those tutorials, you may prefer a mixed media sketchbook. You can do it in any size that you want. You can also get one of these very, very simple sketchbooks from Amazon. I'll leave a link in my shop of the ones I bought. Paper is very thin, totally fine for the markers, the colored pencils, even some really light watercolor. Probably not ideal for some of the larger tutorials. Okay, so the other supplies that you are going to need would be the watercolor pencils. The ones that I use in the tutorials are Faber-Castell. They come in a 12-pack or more. If you have something like Derwent, that would totally be fine too. You might just use whatever you have, or if you're buying new, you could get ones that match the tutorial. And then you want some watercolors, and I'll again be using the 6 colors that I always use in all of our classes. I think I might have about 5 or 6 of these left. If you want one, you can email me. They are $20 to send them out to you. Otherwise, you can buy a little set like these from Winsor Newton on Amazon. They work fine, these colors. I prefer the paint that I use myself just because I like the consistency of it and the colors and all of that. In my commonplace book, I'm using some of these Tombow brush pens. I love them. Also going to be using some Sharpies at some point, probably. I love my Pilot gel pen. Here's my water brush. Some Microns because they are waterproof. I am really excited because I just discovered a Micron permanent brush pen. I have been wanting that for a while. I don't know why I didn't know about it, but I will try to make sure those are in the link too. I love regular old tacky glue for gluing down paper, cut magazines into something like the Commonplace book. So that is what I would recommend if maybe you have a glue that you prefer. When you're working with color pencils and pencils, it makes life so wonderful. If you have a pencil sharpener that really works well, and this is my absolute favorite. I love it. Makes using pencils wonderful. Okay, I think those are supplies. Now the regular book list is inside the Nature Creative, and it will come out as well in a video form during week 1. But I did want to just go over a couple of books now. You need your own copy of Wind in the Willows, and I would suggest any old copy that you are willing to underline in. I am such a fan of underlining. This is a brand new to me copy because I wanted to start again and underline, circle, really get into the text and enjoy it. And then another thing that we're going to be doing this summer is kind of having a nature focus each month. The first month of June, the nature focus beyond sort of Wind in the Willows is dragonflies. And then in July, it's going to be water. August is going to be mammals that kind of live in these habitats. It's just a broad overview kind of for those that might want to focus more on the nature and less on the story. I am highly going to recommend this book, Chasing Dragonflies, A Natural, Cultural, and Personal History by Cindy Crosby. This is a nature memoir, and that's my favorite way to learn about nature, I would say. I think this is a great thing. Definitely would recommend it for June if you have time to read it alongside Wind in the Willows. And then this book I have not read yet, but this is the one that I'm really hoping to focus on in July if it proves to be good, and that's Robert McFarlane's Is a River Alive? And I haven't chosen a book yet for August, so we'll get to that. Okay, well, I am excited for this adventure ahead. If you have any questions, let me know. But we will end out May in the Nature Creative, have our Zoom, have our gratitude prompts and quotes, and then the very first Friday in June, I will post week 1 of the Wind in the Willows. I'll see you then.